Hi, this is Rosanna,
And this is Gabby.
and we are co-chairs of the SciAps Global Health Network's Adolescent and Young Adult Working Group.
And we want to invite you to be part of this new project that we have that is called Charlas de Café.
Or coffee cups.
So here you will get a chance to share a short interview with a specialist in the AYA, and I hope you enjoy it.
And make sure to check it out on the SciAps official page at Onco Daily.
Yep, and you can always join our working group if you're taking care of AYA. Well, you were diagnosed when you were 20. So that is quite a difficult time to be diagnosed with cancer. Because when you're a kid, your parents kind of take the lead and you might not truly understand what's going on. If you're a toddler or like a 10 years old, you just go with the flow. When you're a grown up, you might have other experiences with death and disease from others, and you might have more resources and that. But as a young adult teenager, you are trying to figure out your life, who you are. You're not economically, I mean, you might not have enough money or a job that will provide you a salary to, you might have big expectations for your life, like we all dream big. But then you have like a hit there. And there are currently a lot of patients like going through similar situations like yours.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, from where I work in Argentina, we have even a lot of our patients that they are parents themselves, right? So they not only have to deal with the uncertainties of them being sick, but also the uncertainties of how I'm going to provide for my family, or like. So I love that you use art to express yourself, and that you kind of discover that in your own way, right? Kind of like saying, if I'm going to dance in this space where everyone is looking at me because I'm different, I'm going to use these resources, like this tool that I have to do that. But maybe not everyone has this extrovert personality that you have, that I guess it came very handy to you. So what could be, your advice for someone that might not have the words to express themselves in a way? Because I think like having the words to express your feelings and how you want to desire is extremely important, gives you resources at the end of the day, or might not have a community that always support them. Because I don't know you, but it seems that in this path that you took, there was a community, I don't know, family, friends, whatever, that actually support you or like celebrate that you were.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm very thankful for it. Just a few things to respond to what you're saying. Absolutely. The thing that sucks about being young and having cancer is that you have very few peers who have cancer. And just no one has it. It's a very lonely experience. You look around to your group of friends and they're doing this, that, and the other. And, now that I'm 43 now, and a lot more of my friends have either had cancer or have a cancer scare or have a parent who has cancer, or have a friend or a loved one who has cancer. So you grow into that space, but it's just lonely. It's just lonely. Like being the only gay in the village, or the one black child in a classroom of all white children. It's just, you just look around, and that doesn't always have to be bad. It just is distinct. So there's that. I think that my cancer was much more permanently changing to my mother than it was to me. Because the only thing that's good about having cancer when you're young is that, like, when you're 20, you've just finished like 7 years of like your body being all over the place. You're going to puberty, you're having sex, you're having jobs for the first time, you're moving out of home, you're building relationships, you're doing things. So like having cancer like feels a little bit aligned with all of the weird changes. For my parents, they went from never having a sick child
to having
for 6 years in their life to having a child almost die. And that's horrifically changing. So because you don't experience your own mortality in the same way that other people experience yours. So, and for a parent who really they can't fix it themselves. You just can't reach their hand out. It just doesn't fix it. So the one thing I would say to so I have a few things. Number one, this is a journey and a transition. this is the work that I'm doing now that I was
Oh
telling
yeah,
you a little
tell
bit
us.
about. I'm trying to reimagine all of these experiences as a transition. The
Okay.
cancer diagnosis is not a moment where someone says cancer. It is actually a transitional period from feeling well to having something wrong that you don't know, to going to a doctor, to getting tests, to then getting the words for that, and then the period where you have to redraw your life, your schedule, and relationship. That whole transition is much more interesting than this one moment where someone says the word cancer to you. That, of course, is a very important moment. It has to be done with
Right.
care. But that whole period, for some people, particularly women or young people who people question their illness before they get seen. We know that happens with women, especially with ovarian cancers and cervical cancers. We know that young people are just told they're partying too much. This whole period is a period of transition from not knowing what's wrong with your body to questioning what's in your body, to getting the courage to speak up that something is wrong with your body, to maybe interfacing with a medical system that's easy or not easy to get an appointment, right? That happens in all different contexts,
Sure.
depending on how much money someone has, how much social capital they have, etc. All a transition period. So I'm interested in that whole period. This whole thing is a transition. They're all transitions. And they take as long as they take. So don't rush it. That would be one piece of advice. The second, and not everyone likes the way I use this language, but I like to tell people who are young that when you've been diagnosed with cancer, the previous version of you is dead. They're dead. The person of you who never knew illness is dead. Now,
There's a
I
new
do
one.
feel I care about death. I'm interested in it. But the reason why is because death tells us two things. Number one, we have to celebrate and honor the life that was. We can be sad about that. We can take time to mourn. We can remember it. We can be sad our body doesn't work like it did, or our abdomen
Person
is
you
not
used to be.
scarless. It was so beautiful before, but we take time. And then we have to figure out how to move on. Who is this new body? What does it do? And how does it fully function? And I think that it's rough to tell someone that person is dead. But it also feels like a ripping of the band-aid to say that person is gone, we're a new person. Let's just jump into this
You
right now.
do you wish that that would have happened to you, that someone would have told you that? Because I don't think
It took
anyone
me, I was a little bit behind the curve, but I
Okay.
think I got there. So
Okay.
I don't wish that someone had told me. I think I came up with it and just, I
Right.
felt embarrassed to tell people it, but I do really believe it. The final thing, so I would say that that person is gone, mourn them,
Uh-huh.
take time to be sad. Don't let people rush you out of that sadness. You're having your leg removed because you've got a sarcoma. You are allowed to be pissed off that you are down a leg. You are allowed to be. You're
Yeah.
allowed to be sad that your hair fell out. You can be sad about any number of things. That you had to quit your job, or a breakup happened. You can be sad about all those things. The final thing I would say, so the first is this is a transition. The second is that person is dead. And the third is like when you're young, you feel like you're on a very strict timeline. You go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have a baby, blah, 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 blah. When you're on the other side of that, the timeline seems ridiculous. No one is on that timeline. That timeline is a construct. And if you just sit outside of it, you will see a lot of people living very happily outside of that strict timeline, and get on board, because that's a much more fun place to be.
That is very helpful. And I think that's a great piece of advice for anyone in general, right? Because you have like
Gabriella, can I pause for
Yes.
3 minutes?
All right. So here we're back again. And we have one last question for you.
Sure.
It's kind of like to go into that part that you explained about transition and the time where you realize that you're not healthy anymore, you notice something different, and you somehow navigate your own feelings, your family, your community, the medical system to get to the point that you might have a test and then the diagnosis.
Yeah.
So when we look at data, or when we ask that we treat adolescents and young adults, we realize that they all get to be diagnosed late. Not all of them, but most of them. There is like the medical system doesn't really provide an environment to welcome them, right? Because they're not kids, they're not old adults. So it's like, just figure it out yourself. And there's some kind of type of cancers that can be screened, that we can teach the population as a whole, how to look for them, and if they happen or there's something that is suspicious, just to go to see your doctor, like a screening. For women, it's something that if you are lucky, or like if you've been educated, you know that you need a pap smear, you might need, you know that you need like to check your breast if there's someone in your family who had breast cancer. But there's a lot of other diseases, including breast cancer, right? That we are not doing a great job educating adolescents and young adults about this, right? We are maybe better doing this about old patients. And in a way, much better with pediatrics, because we use more the screening and the typical pediatric tools that we normally use. But in this gray area, it's kind of like a big blank, that we don't have a good way to reach them. So my question is, and then we'll let you talk about that.
No, for sure. I'm just writing it down,
Because what do you think, like, for example, for testicular cancer, it's something that you can feel it. Ovarian cancer, you generally, your belly is too big, or it's more likely to know that it's there when it's an advanced disease, right? For breast cancer, if you're not checking your breast, you might not feel it, right? Or if you're too scared, or if you don't know that there's a positive family history, that your grandmother had breast cancer at age 45, you don't know that you have to try to check on that before. So what do you think about using new modalities to reach like technologies like TikTok or social media, or like other like areas like new communications to reach to a population? Like, for example, would that have helped you?
I mean, I checked my testicles because of a little thing that was on my college dorm room on the shower. It was there.
Really?
Yeah, it saved my life.
And that's how you did it? How you figured out?
But really, I had noticed a problem, but when I saw it, it connected that problem might be something there. Might be cancer. I didn't know that I was having cancer. I just went to the doctor.
Sure.
I hate conservative people. I don't mind saying it. I hate conservative, and that sometimes intersects with Republicans or Tories, things like that happened. I'm not sure the Argentinian equivalent, but
it's a whole.
The main reason why is because conservative attitudes towards health and the body kill people. They kill them.
Totally agree.
I really believe that. People not talking about condom use
killed a lot of people.
Leads to more people becoming HIV positive, which is treatable and is livable, but it's also preventable with the right education. But a teacher has to be able to say the word penis to students and do that without shame, without homophobia.
Without fear of having angry parents at the door,
what's happening in America about women's health is not. We can leave abortion to the side for a quick second, but what you're saying is that women can't go to places to deal with their own cycles, their own pain. And we know that women don't look at fibroids. We don't look at other things that are causing so much pain, that cancer can only be also impacted by all of these things. I 100% agree with more modalities, TikTok, and I want to do it. There's something that happens with, we don't also want to scare young people.
Right.
So it's always
Ways
about
go
that
on there.
balancing. It's always about that balancing. It's one of the reasons why I'm very cynical about some cancer charities that are built off of a singular persona, because they often say, well, I checked my breasts just like this and it was exactly right for me. Because sometimes we do need a sample size that's a bit larger to
Sure.
make sure that, there's sometimes that some women should not be having mammogram. You can't have a mammogram every 6 months. That's not good for you. There's certain things that over information is there. So I think we want to find that healthy balance. And I
Right.
want to say we're on a long journey for what's the right amount of information and what's not the right amount of information. Contemporary kind of cancer treatment and awareness has been around 40 years tops. That
Yeah.
is still in the history of the world. It's very new. People can think that they know exactly how people work and how we get things. But like, if we say social media's impact on cancer diagnosis, we're 20 years into social media. Not even. That is a blip. It's a second. We can't find those trend lines really yet. So I want to encourage everyone to be thinking boldly about how we can get the right messages. But I want that to be medically led,
Mm-hmm.
care led, because I don't want it to be personality led. Because as a young person with cancer, I was really impacted by Lance Armstrong and this idealization of a man and what that looks like. So I also don't, there is some worlds in the world of cancer, little cult figures that appear,
Like a
that get
hero
followed.
there. Yeah.
Generally, it's very good and it's very important, but people have to realize that, like, I really want for it to be deeply invested with like great knowledge that is also scientifically tested and
Mm-hmm.
trusted. That's what I want, and that's a little bit of my insight
No,
there.
no, 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 that's good because when we think as ways to reach out to the whole population using social media and stuff like that, we also fear, number one, as you said, the message should not be something scary, right? You don't want people to panic because that's not the point, right? Also, is the medical system ready to receive a lot of people having questions?
Hmm.
Hopefully,
Absolutely.
yes. You know, what if everyone now wants to go to the doctor? No, there's not going to be enough appointments everywhere. But that we can put that aside. So the medical system should be able to receive it and like to, include all those questions and all those patients. But the other is that if we use social media, we take a risk of like misinformation, right? Because you get with all
Absolutely.
these algorithms and things that I'm not as smart enough to understand it, but I can send a very clear message saying this is has been thought and like prepared by a lot of professionals from different countries, and we just want that. But then the second video you see is about something ridiculous, and
Yeah,
it's like,
someone saying it's this amount of carrot juice at this time of day
yeah,
does
well,
cures everything. So it's a very scary place, the
yeah,
misinformation that's out there.
yeah,
So I think building trusted channels
okay,
and a community accountability. But that is also, I go back to my first point where I just was talking about, it's not just the doctor that's giving the person the information. It's not just the nurse. It's somewhere between the nurse, the doctor, the social worker, or any of those three people talking to teachers in health.
right,
Our teachers who are, when I had cancer, when I was 20 and had cancer, I went to my old high school and I taught a lesson on cancer because I wanted to say, like, this is what you should do if your friend has cancer. I don't know why. I just felt like should be a teacher. But it was amazing to me because I said chemotherapy usually looks like a bag
right, and
that
no,
has a
no,
vein. It goes into your vein and it does this. People didn't know
no,
what it.
exactly,
So, and if your only relationship with chemotherapy is watching only family member go through a very painful process,
Right.
then then you, of course, you get more and more and more scared. You might be so scared that you go, actually, I don't want to look at that cough or that bump. I'll just let it go because I can't even scare. So what I would urge would be early years education on cancer, on the realities of cancer, especially because now we have much greater survival rates for everything. So if a child can learn what chemotherapy is, they'd be scared to teach chemotherapy to an 8-year-old before, because chemotherapy probably meant a very painful death. And that's too much for a 10-year-old. But if we can tell a 10-year-old now, the person's having chemotherapy, that's what this does, and it makes you lose your hair because it's helping get all of the bad cells away. There's things that you can do. And if that happens at a younger age, the reason why I've always promoted kind of cancer conversation more broadly is because when you are diagnosed, it is too late to start thinking gently about cancer.
Right.
You're in it. You are thrown in the deep end. So it would be better for you to have a little bit of a wading pool.
Right.
You know, the first pool that's a little shallow. Shallow. No, we're just thinking about it. No low stakes. Low stakes. You know, we want to hear stories. We want to know what we can do. And because the moment that you are diagnosed, you are not, it's not that you're in the deep end. It's that you're like
in the middle of the ocean.
Middle of the ocean. In the middle of the ocean.
Right.
And all of these people are buoys and ships and nets. People are trying to help you.
Right.
But it would be better for you to understand the water that you're in.
Right. And to not dive in with all these misconceptions and all that
Exactly.
extra fear.
Exactly.
Yeah. No. That is actually very helpful and true. So, Brian, anything else you would like to share with us? Because I will let you go back to your life.
I think, pienso, that it is very important that I continue my research in a sunny place like Argentina. So if anyone listening wants to bring Gabriella and Camila and I into a room together, I would love to see you all in person. No, I'm really thankful to get to share this with you. If anyone, and I mean this very seriously, if anyone wants to think about how art can be a tool for people creating their own story or working for larger community conversations, please be in touch. I am a professor. It's what I do, is talk to people. Don't come talk to me if you need help with your doctor. That's not my job. But if you want to think more generally and more boldly about what we're doing, that's the world I'm really excited about, because I know that the way Argentina talks about its work is different than how Japan does, which is different than Nigeria and different than South Africa. So let's just keep the conversation going, and hopefully somewhere warm.
Okay, I will take this somewhere warm and keep the conversation going. Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Brian. Bye-bye.
Thank you.